Could I introduce my chaplain, Canon Haydock, who will say the opening prayer, please?
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. O eternal Lord God, from whom above cometh wisdom and understanding, we beseech thee to direct aright the minds of those who are about to take counsel together on matters pertaining to the common life of this borough, that in all their deliberations and decisions they may faithfully discharge the duties of their office and ever promote the health, the safety, and the well-being of those whom they seek to serve, for the honour and glory of thy holy name. Amen. Amen. Teach us, good Lord, to serve thee as thou deservest, to give and not to count the cost, to fight and not to heed the wounds, to toil and not to seek for rest, to labour and not to expect any reward, save that of knowing that we do thy will, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Please be seated. Item 1 is for apologies of absence, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Apologies from Councillor Brown, Councillor Cooper, Councillor Davidson and Councillor Donoghue.
Are there any declarations of interest?
Madam Mayor, if I can record for the record for the matters of item 15, myself and all members of the executive management team and all other staff, apart from the monitoring officer, Charlotte Caven-Attack and Julie Hicks, will leave the room. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 3 is to approve as a correct record the minutes of the meeting of the council held on the 6th of December 2018. Councillor Robinson.
I'd like to move those minutes, Councillor Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Mason.
And I would like to second them and reserve the right to speak.
Councillor Jones.
Madam Mayor, I just I gave you advance notice of an inclusion in the item 38, which was the motion about...
Sorry, have you got your microphone on? I can't hear.
Yeah, well, it's gone.
Yeah, that's fine.
Red is the correct colour.
Okay, well, I'll try and shout then.
Thank you.
There was an item 38 in the minutes of the last meeting about reorganisation, and I just made a statement which I would like included in the minutes, which is that restructuring is wasteful of resources and expertise. Economies of scale and shared benefits is best obtained by cooperation. Already this council has several such arrangements with adjacent authorities for specific services. Cross-district officer meetings provide important learning and sharing of ideas. I believe that accountability of public services should not become more remote. Local democracy should not be diluted or diminished. Thank you, Madam.
So he's saying that is a statement he made at council.
Yes.
At last council, because I don't recall it.
Are you saying that that is a statement you made at last council?
Madam Mayor, I can assure you it was, and it was in part of the copy of my speech that I provided to Constitutional Services.
It is recorded.
Right, it will be recorded. So. Do you wish to say anything, Councillor Wilson?
Well, I'm just saying, Mr. Mayor, that's addition, isn't it, to the minutes? But if you're saying if that is recorded, as in a recording, you're happy to accept that, then that's fine.
Okay, thank you. All in favour of that, please? Anyone against? That is carried, Councillor Jones. With that, I need to sign the minutes. Sorry. Okay. As we've just heard, the last council meeting was held in December, and after that very busy month, January was much quieter as far as civic events were concerned. January did include a donation to my charity, the Nottinghamshire Hospice, from the Sutton Bonington presentation evening, where proceeds from their summer show are given to many worthy causes. Additionally, January included the National Holocaust Memorial Day, which was remembered at the Council House in Nottingham this year. In early February, the civic dinner was held, which had the theme of upskilling the next generation. It's good that we have a different theme each year so that we can invite different people from all walks of life to this important event. This meeting is the final scheduled council meeting for this year, and some councillors have indicated they will not be returning after the May elections. I'd like to say how much I have appreciated this opportunity to be your mayor again. I feel privileged to have worked with all councillors over the last year. Now, on a personal note, as they say online, words are my own, and I would like to mention the following councillors specifically. Councillor George Davidson, who I had hoped would have been able to be here tonight, and I'm sorry he has had such pain and poor health recently. I have appreciated the friendship and rivalry we've had at the ballot box in Bingham since 1995, and could you take this message to him, Councillor Hull? Councillor Alistair McInnes, I've also appreciated and enjoyed the repartee that we have indulged in concerning my hometown at times, your witty comments sometimes in council, and your reluctance to sit down sometimes when your allotted time is up. Councillor Mrs. Marie Males, you've been my mentor and role model since I was elected to this council in 1999. I've got a bit of information later on. You've continued to be my guide and friend, and I know you have helped others as well. I've been in awe of your 40 years service to this council. Perhaps you didn't want that mentioning. Only recently I learned that after failing to get elected to the borough in 1976, both you and Councillor Kay Cutts went on to both be elected in 1979. Finally, my personal wishes to you all that in whatever venture you're now undertaking, you enjoy success and happiness. So thank you all. Item 5 are the leaders' announcements, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of announcements this evening. First of all, on Monday this week, I attended the first oversight meeting of the Development Corporation. This is going to be something incredibly new for this area, covering Ratcliffe Power Station, the airport, HS2, and it's going to have a major bearing on this authority as it actually moves forward. Madam Mayor, I'd also just like to bring to members' attention that last week we, as part of our very ambitious and successful investment policy, we acquired office accommodation near the airport, actually at Castle Donington, paying just over £800,000 for some offices there in a very established business park. This is yielding over 7%, so this will net us over £60,000. I'd also just like to mention the Chief Executive and myself had the pleasure of visiting the DNRC last Thursday. As you're aware, this is a £300 million investment in this borough with 350 staff there. And it's fair to say, I think it was absolutely incredible. I think we're quite speechless at the end at the world-class facilities being all in Rushcliffe. It was an amazing experience to actually see, there were about 170 patients, I think, were actually in there, and they were lost because it is such an enormous place. And the equipment and the technology and the expertise is as I say, is absolutely leading the world. So it really was a fantastic experience, and we're very proud to have that within the actual borough. Madam Mayor, I'd also just like to mention the real success of the tree planting scheme that we announced last year. As you're aware, that I'm very keen that we do increase our trees across the borough and our environmental commitments, and we've just gone through the first year. It's been incredibly successful, and we're looking forward to many residents and parish councils applying again now over the next 2 years, where we're going to be looking at what sort of trees that we're going to be doing, but I'm really looking forward to seeing those being planted and nurtured over the next few years, and this really complements many other of our environmental schemes as we actually go forward. Madam Mayor, if I just may take up the theme that you mentioned, that for a number of people this is going to be the last of their full council meetings, and unfortunately officially you don't actually finish until May the 2nd, is it? I think whatever it is. So there's a bit limited what we can say and do, but what I would like to announce that ex-councillors will be invited back to a reception at May the 23rd, which is the full council. In fact, the first full council in the new political year, being hosted by the new mayor, and really just to pay tribute to commitment, service, etc., right across all the parties. But Madam Mayor, if I just may finish, and just to say, and on behalf of my cabinet and myself, is to wish my appreciation for all the councillors who are stepping down across all parties in this chamber. I think your commitment, your dedication to public life is to be admired, and it really is, I think, an incredible public duty that you all do, and for whatever reasons people stepping down, I think all the residents of Rushcliffe are appreciative of all your efforts in all your wards, as I say, right across the parties. I would just like to pay particular respects to Councillor McInnes as leader of the Labour Party. We may not agree politically on a lot of things, Alistair, but I've got to say you've always been very respectful, you've always been very diligent, and you'll be very much missed from the authority. It's a great credit to you, whatever you do going forward. I hope you keep in contact in terms of going there. Yeah. We'll look forward to your speeches going forward there, yeah, to shorter council meetings. And again, it's unfortunate that George Davidson isn't with us. Sue and I spoke the other day. Again, George, incredible commitment, service that he's actually given to this authority. Of course, George was obviously mayor as well, so even in sort of greater commitment he's actually made to that. And again, George will be very, very sorely missed by this authority. I think all of us in this chamber wish him all the very best health-wise, and whatever future, hopefully, that he will do in terms of going forward. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Item 6 is the Chief Executive's announcements, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and following on from the leader, I just have two announcements really, or two comments to make. Firstly, to wish all members the very best, as those who are wishing to stand and stand for election. I wish you well in your campaigns, and I wish well for the prospective candidates. The staff here stand willing and ready to make sure the election process runs smoothly and well. And for those who will not be returning or choosing not to return, it's a heartfelt thank you and appreciation of working with you and for you, as we do as officers. We really value upholding democracy and the representation of the community and the community leadership you all play, and we wish, as I say, wish you all very well. And then the second one, Madam Mayor, is hopefully I've caught you a bit by surprise. As the leader indicated, we visited the Benson National Rehabilitation Centre last week, but prior to that I have been sent a copy of a book which I've been asked to forward on to you, which is a limited edition book, genuinely a limited edition book. It's a book that can't be reproduced without permission, of the story of the rehabilitation centre.
Oh, how nice.
And you will remember the great day of the handover.
Yes.
And you will be delighted to know some of us made it into the book.
Oh.
I know people won't be able to see this, but there is two particular pictures, Madam Mayor, that got one of the leader looking very, very businesslike and very happy, with a very grumpy chief executive. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but my face, as always, wasn't smiling. But Madam Mayor, the picture of yourself is, I think, a fantastic picture of you, which I doubt you've seen as yet. I'll just show you.
Oh no.
For those who can see, it's a beautiful, it really is a genuine, lovely picture of the Mayor at the event.
With
And
messy shades on.
and then, yeah, well, it was a sunny day, a very hot day, as I remember. So I would like to present you with that book for your personal keeping, Madam Mayor, and I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you very much. I'm absolutely delighted to get that. Lovely memory of the days. We were told not to take photos, but I took a few anyway. So, item 7, citizens' questions, and there have been no questions submitted. Item 8, on your papers, the budget and financial strategy for 2019 to 2020. Councillor Robinson to move, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So once again, we reach budget times and the delights of presenting this budget. I think there's a lot of cut and paste in this from previous years about how difficult things are and financial pressures. But I stand there this evening to deliver my budget speech as leader, which has been another excellent year for this council, and a testament to the hard work, the dedication, and the leadership of officers and members. As I said, it's not been a very easy year for any public sector body, and particularly at the district level with the current economic environment that we're operating in. But I'm pleased to say that I'm presenting a robust and balanced budget with a strong financial plan. And this enables the council to continue to provide excellent services and ensures there is a financial resilience to protect the council both now and in the future. It is at this time of significant uncertainty, with unknown quantities such as the outcome of the spending review, which for those it should actually come later this year, and also the impact of this on the local government funding envelope, which includes the review of the actual business rates. But I do urge members to remember this budget is against a backdrop of significant budget reductions from central government over the last 8 years, where we've actually seen our central grant reduced from 3.25 million to 0. But the great thing is, as many councils stand up now and talk about this and all the moans and complaints, is that we now consider ourselves to be self-sufficient by 8 years ago taking a very robust and ambitious approach to our finances. And we've risen to the challenges that beset local government, and we continue to grow this sustainable and positive vision and strength. For us, a sound budget in the future, we need to have solid foundations, and it's important we just reflect on some of the things that we have delivered over the last year that's been supported by this budget. Things like the Tour of Britain, which generated over £400,000 into our local economy, bringing 250,000 visitors. We focused, and as I talked about the tree planting schemes, the £50,000 that we actually put into that scheme, that's been a real success, both to residents and parish councils right across the borough, backed up by our commitment to reduce single-use plastics and actually taking that lead as a district, and also the banning of helium balloons as well. The ongoing development of Cotgrave, for those now who have seen that develop last year, developing the multi-service centre with 9 new business units, and we've also had the 10 refurbished shops. We've brought together the health, the police, the library, really producing a very revitalised town centre. And I think that has been a very, very important journey for this authority and for Cotgrave as well. But the important thing is that that now produces over £200,000 worth of income to Rushcliffe. The absolute success of the very building we're in at the moment, producing over £400,000 worth of savings to the taxpayer compared to the running of the previous premises that we were in by Trent Bridge. And as I mentioned in my leader's announcements earlier about developing our asset investment strategy, where we'll now get on to over £2 million worth of income coming from our investments, which is going to be over 25% of our fees. And I think it's important that underpinning our investment strategy, and indeed all our finances, the way we've approached this, was a fantastic recognition, and I was incredibly proud to, with the management team, to receive these two huge awards that we had the photo with earlier. And these were recognising the entrepreneurial spirit and the commercial acumen of this council. And I pay tribute to all the officers and the members for their role in ensuring that this council retains huge professional standards and continues to be on the front foot, innovative, forward-looking, and a fantastic flag bearer for local government. But going forward, Madam Mayor, we can't rest on our laurels. As part of our transformation and capital agenda, and our focus is generating growth and prosperity across this borough. We are committed going forward through this budget in providing a fantastic new leisure hub and office facility in Bingham, as many of you have seen those plans. We want to provide and support a crematorium in the borough. Again, really for our residents, to make sure that they have the first-class facilities that our residents deserve. And supporting one of the biggest housing and employment growth areas in the country over at Fair and Pastures. And this is a result of an ambitious capital programme of excess of 47 million over the next 5 years. It is clear in delivering this that we may have to borrow at some time, a very first for this authority. But as always, we will be prudent and ensure that with the low interest rates, that our income will cover this and give us a much bigger barrier to ensure that we are prudent and we can cover the financial commitments that this actually gives us. In particular, I would like just to pay tribute to our planning officers, because again, a major part of our budget is providing homes and the delivery of homes. And in fact, over the last year, we've actually built over 2,600 houses in the last 7 years. That's more than any other district in the whole of Nottinghamshire. And of course, we've also delivered more affordable houses than any other district in the whole of Nottinghamshire, with many of our sites delivering 30% affordable homes. And of course, with the local plan 2, we've got a further 23 sites coming on board, which will also deliver affordable houses. I'm also pleased to say that in the very near future, Abbey Road will be coming on stream. Again, providing much needed affordable homes in the centre of West Bridgford. And I'm absolutely delighted now that that project will be coming forward very, very soon. And such funding is needed to support this capital programme as well to meet these demands, because it's, of course, with growth becomes demands such as refuse rounds and vehicles and other facilities. And of course, we do not know the future of New Homes Bonus. This is the bonus we get as we deliver these houses. But we will continue to lobby the government and to ensure that growth is appropriately rewarded and the council is adequately resourced. Also, Madam Mayor, in terms of homelessness that we've talked about, that you recall that we've now agreed through Cabinet that we're going to penalise people who keep homes empty. So anybody who keeps a house more than 10 years empty will have to pay 300% of the council tax, which is a huge penalty. It can be very expensive. And I'm sure that we're going to see an impact on empty homes. So in terms of our financial challenges going forward, I'd like to just consider key indicators of financial resilience and ongoing sustainability. Our reserves remain relatively healthy over this period of this MTFS range between 5.7 and 6.3. And this is necessary, Madam Mayor, because of the financial risk that I've already mentioned. We will also ensure our council tax remains the lowest in Nottinghamshire and is in fact the lowest in the bottom quarter of anywhere in the country, even with the proposed increase in the next agenda item. And over this period of the medium-term financial settlement, we have balanced the budget position, which takes into account the fact that there may be some borrowing as we go forward. And also a capital transformation programme that shapes places and generates housing, employment, growth and improved services. So, Madam Mayor, I've said this before, and there's a key phrase that we use in terms of the finances around this budget, that we have to be brave but not reckless. So this council has an approach that balances both risk and reward. And there are undoubtedly pressures going forward, we are in a position, thanks to the excellent management of our resources, to ensure we can deliver the Council's priorities both now and for the future generations.
Councillor Robinson, you're over time now.
Okay, I'd just lastly to say a big thank you to all officers and to all members who've worked on this budget. And with that, I'd like to move the recommendations on pages 1 and 2 of this report. Thank you.
Very much. Councillor Moore. Yeah.
I'm happy to second the recommendation and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you. Councillor McInnes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Sorry.
Having carefully read the budget report, the Labour Group find they have concerns about...
Councillor McInnes. Councillor McInnes. Microphone.
Yes, have about the sustainability of the budget. This apprehension applies especially to the proposed capital programme, that if not thoroughly monitored and managed over the period, we could find ourselves creating substantial financial problems for ourselves in future years. Madam Mayor, the Council's medium-term financial strategy and capital programme supports a finely balanced, very ambitious programme of nearly 48 million, probably the largest capital programme in the history of the Council, launched in the middle of the most volatile, uncertain and risky period, financially and politically, since the economic crash of 2008 and 9. Section 8 of the budget report sets out the increasing financial pressures facing us. There is currently no certainty about the local authority funding from 2021, and that situation will remain until this year's spending review. The situation is compounded by not knowing whether the local authority retention of the 75% business rates will be the preferred long-term funding method of the sector. Other unpredictable risks and dangers include the Brexit hiatus, fair funding, uncertainty surrounding the future of NHB, business rates at NHB is new homes bonus for our visitors, business rate appeals, the major one being the decommissioning of the Racklefon Soar Power Station. While welcoming the government's plans to overhaul the waste system, we are extremely concerned about its proposal to introduce a universal free garden waste collection service, which, if introduced, would act as a real threat to our finances. Last year, green waste income amounted to £1.2 million, an enormous financial hole to fill. Madam Mayor, perhaps a clear sign of the uncertainties confronting us is the need to prepare contingency plans for a loan of £10 million from the Public Sector Loans Board. New territory for Rushcliffe, however, a convenient safety net. Madam Mayor, we are extremely disappointed, and this is what we were discussing up and down here, that there is no mention in the budget, which is the case, the budget report about affordable housing. Members will know that the Labour Group have campaigned vigorously for the Abbey Road depot site to be delivered for affordable homes, delivered in partnership with registered social landlords or a housing company and funded through the capital programme and the asset investment strategy. Madam Mayor, we hope we might see something in the budget report that showed that an affordable housing proposal was being worked up for the depot site, and the leaders made an announcement about that, which we welcome very much. For the Labour Group, the capital programme allocations are about funding priorities, and the need for affordable housing is far greater than the case for developing a crematorium. The money earmarked in the budget for a crematorium, if other funds weren't available, should be directed towards building affordable homes. Building new social housing is also an investment that can generate significant income and also meet our social aims. What's more, we feel very strongly that the authority has a duty and a moral obligation to finance and build more homes to meet the growing demand. Madam Mayor, and this is the controversial bit, the Labour Group has decided to oppose the budget on this occasion, as it does not reflect our priority for affordable housing and concerns about sustainability of the capital programme. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Richard Mallender.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to welcome this report and thank the officers for all the hard work that they've put into producing it. Local government finance is never easy to grapple with, and every council continues to face cuts year on year. And now here in Rushcliffe, we're finally at the point where the council's revenue support grant is reduced to zero. Councils have a duty to help the homeless and those in poverty or in need, and continued cuts year on year make this ever more difficult, whether that be dealing with homeless issues or social housing. And we hope and continue to hope here in the Green Group and within everywhere in this chamber that the social housing need will be addressed by the rollout of more housing across the borough in the years to come. We note the expected closure of Ratcliffe-on-Soar coal-fired power station in 2025. Accounting for 1/5 of the borough's tax base, this closure will be very difficult financially to deal with, but is absolutely necessary to cut carbon emissions. Whatever development takes place on that site is yet to be decided, but if it includes power generation, it must be renewables and megawatt-class battery storage, not incineration or so-called energy from waste. Relying on council tax, business rates, investments, rents and the new homes bonus will hopefully see us through, but risks still abound. And delivering excellent services with an expanding population will be difficult. The new leisure centre for Bingham will be as welcome an addition for that area as the arena has been for the people of West Bridgford. And we look forward to further investments in the borough, such as changes to Tudor Square. Council, we will be supporting this budget. We do commend the hard work that the officers have put into this. We understand and are concerned about such things as affordable housing and the other work that we have to do around the borough to bring up young people, to make sure that they get a good start in life, and to make sure that the growing population of Rushcliffe gets the best services that we can deliver. So I would like to also support this budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Also thanks to the officers for the hard work on the council's finances in producing this detailed report, and in particular identifying the strengths and risks to the council's finances. I agree with much of the strong points made by Councillor Robinson, but not all. We will be supporting the recommendations. We recognise that the Conservative government has removed the central government grant to zero and overall reduced all public services to the bare bones. Because of where this leaves this council, we will reluctantly be supporting the rising council tax. However, we don't buy the self-adulation in paragraph 4.2a about Rushcliffe's council tax being so low compared to other authorities. Rushcliffe raises a higher income because it has much higher value banded properties. In the top two council bands, Rushcliffe has over 50% of the total of all the other 6 boroughs in Nottinghamshire combined. In Rushcliffe, in the lowest tax band, there are just over 6,000 properties, where the average for the other boroughs is over 20,000. In Rushcliffe, some expenses lie with parishes, including the West Bridgford special expenses, which contrasts with other boroughs that have few parishes. Hence, we don't buy the self-adulation. Turning to other points, we welcome efforts mentioned in the report to get the government to make a long-term commitment to the new homes bonus. There's better use of money than funding persimmon and the like through the flawed right to buy scheme. We note the projected reduction in housing benefit with the anticipated continued introduction of universal credit. We very much hope this stalls because universal credit is an awful, penalising and inflexible system, as I know from the people we support. We also hope that the Gove's consultation on recycling and refuse will not increase costs to the council, and I presume we're making strong representations to that effect. Turning to the capital programme, we understand the importance of providing a replacement leisure centre in Bingham and appreciate that the notion of adjacent offices will hopefully create an income. However, we are alarmed at this council contemplating a debt of 10 million. Over 40 years, this will cost future generations an additional 11 million in interest on top of the sum borrowed. We urge the Cabinet to avoid that. Given the previously good financial record of this council, we strongly oppose it taking on debts, capital debts. We know that the council will gain over time more than 15 million from its deal over land at Sharp Hill, and that of course is available across the borough. However much of that money is spent in Bingham or elsewhere, residents of West Bridgford who are most affected by the traffic pollution from all the new builds combined, including at Sharp Hill, will look to this council to make significant improvements in local infrastructure, which I do not see in these proposals. Nevertheless, we will be supporting the recommendations in this report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Clark, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I listened very carefully to Councillor McInnes's comments. And Rushcliffe Borough Council has a fine track record of financial stability and of prudent financial management, as the leader outlined. Councillor McInnes quite rightly raised his concerns, as he's perfectly entitled to do, describing a finely balanced budget and an ambitious budget, and he referred to the future funding. He then raised the issue that, in his opinion, the affordable housing was not in the right balance to promoting a crematorium. So clearly he didn't agree with that, and he said he would oppose the budget. Which he is perfectly entitled to do. So in opposing the budget, I then waited with bated anticipation. So obviously he's going to propose an amendment to the budget, Madam Mayor. So I had my pen poised ready for his amendment. How can you possibly oppose a budget but then not propose an amendment? Let's say his opposition to the budget was successful and it failed. That leaves this council without a budget and leaves this council completely in limbo. And as councillors in this room, we have a duty, a legal duty, to set a budget, which we must do. So if you are not going to propose an amendment, you have a duty to support the budget that is proposed. I just wonder, is there an election coming up, Madam Mayor?
Councillor Moore, do you wish to add anything further?
Thank you. Yes, a couple of points. I'm very disappointed in the fact that you are going to oppose the budget. I think we have budget workshops where we talk open, honestly, about the issues facing this council. And we ask everybody from every party for their comments. And the comments you raised tonight weren't raised at the budget workshops. We've taken into account everything that was said at the budget workshops, and I know we've fed this back to the officers, and they've taken it. So I'm just incredibly disappointed when you all came to the budget workshops, you had the chance to object to the budget, talk about it there open and honestly with all of us, and now you're showboating, saying you're going to object. This is an election stunt. I don't believe it. Secondly, Councillor Jones, one of the good things about having the lowest council tax in the county and possibly one of the lowest council taxes in the East Midlands is that people on lower incomes who probably have smaller houses pay less tax. And you, with your political hat on, should be saying, you're now saying it's hard that so many people with big houses, I'm in one of those houses, I pay a lot more than that. And I'm happy to do it because I live in a larger house. What we don't want to do is disadvantage people who are on low incomes, who live in smaller houses,
And we don't want them to pay a high amount of council tax, and that's why it is. It's quite fair that people who live in 4 or 5 bedroom houses pay more council tax. I have got no problem with that. I do not see your objection. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have nothing else to say.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson, do you wish to respond?
I'm astonished, Madam Mayor. I really am. And I thank Councillor Clark because he's actually spoken this what I wrote down. Where is the alternative? What have you worked up, the 4 of you, that you want to present tonight and just share with us? Anything? No? You talk about affordable housing, and we've had this debate so many times before. Rushcliffe delivers more affordable houses than any other district. Why? Because it's the commitment of the members in this chamber, this cabinet, these officers, where we are absolutely focused on making sure that people can live in this borough and can afford to live in it. Can I suggest maybe you want to talk to your Labour counterparts at Bassett Law or in Nottingham City or Gedling just to see why they aren't delivering affordable houses on the level that Rushcliffe is. And also the fact we're actually delivering houses, full stop, greater than any other district. And that isn't by chance, not something we do by just turning up. It's done by a huge amount of work by officers, by all the members in making sure, and all those big sites out there, that we're working with developers to absolutely make sure they are delivering it. The other point I will make, I think it's a very sorry message you are giving to our officers tonight, that you don't believe in them. That's what you've said. You don't believe they can manage this budget going forward. You don't agree with it. Too many risks. That's the message that you are giving to this chamber tonight. I say it with no alternative whatsoever. Because I'd have been delighted. You had every opportunity. My door is open all the time to say, have you thought about this, leader? Have you thought about taking this or doing this? And as Councillor Moore rightly said, all those workshops, what a complete waste of time. If all you're going to do then is showboat a full council before election and say, we object, but actually we're not bringing any alternatives. I think anybody in this chamber would say this is one of the best run authorities anywhere in the country. I go to conferences, I go to meetings where Rushcliffe is held right up there for its financial management. The way it's run, its business investments to make sure that we can deliver. And what this is about, ambition. You talked about we don't need a crematorium. You've been to Wilford Hill recently? What are your residents saying? I know what they're writing to me about. Absolutely desperate, year after year. Look at Bingham, new leisure centre. So according to you, we should just sit there and say, oh, sorry, we can't do this, just leave things as they are. No ambition, we don't want to do it, it's too risky. This is ambition. And I hopefully, the 120,000 residents out there are listening to this, that it's this authority that's got the ambition to deliver, and this is the budget that we'll actually do. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. This item always has a recorded vote, and the monitoring officer will now take that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I shall read the names of each councillor individually and record the vote. Councillor Adair. Councillor Bailey. Councillor Birdsall.
Yes, we're doing this.
Councillor Buckle. Councillor Bushman. Councillor Butler. Councillor Chewings. Councillor Clark. Councillor Comblack. Councillor Cotty. Councillor Dickinson. Councillor Edwards.
Against.
Councillor Eddie Veen. Councillor Greenwood. Councillor Hetherington. Councillor Hull. Councillor Inglis. Councillor Jeffries. Councillor Jones. Councillor Khan. Councillor Lawrence. Councillor Lungley. Councillor McInnes. Councillor Males. Councillor R. Malinder. Councillor S. Malinder. Councillor Mason. Councillor Moore. Councillor Phillips. Councillor Plant. Councillor Purdue Horan. Councillor Robinson. Councillor Smith. Councillor Stockwood. Councillor M. Stockwood.
4.
Councillor Thurman. Councillor Upton. Councillor Walker. Councillor Wheeler. And Councillor J. Wheeler. Thank you.
So the motion is carried, the budget's carried, there was four against, councillor.
The motion is carried. 35 for 4 against. Move to item 9, please. Council tax for 2019/20. Councillor Moore to move, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a technical item that follows on from the budget. And this report is a statutory requirement for all billing authorities to approve prior to the billing and collection of council tax for 2019/20. The council tax is set out in the council tax is set out in Appendix A. It shows Notts County Council £1,371.39. The extra adult social care precept of £104.77. Rushcliffe Borough Council 137.79, Notts Police 219.33, and Notts Fire 79.80. The increases I'm not detailing, but there for you to read on Appendix A. I will remind you yet once again that Rushcliffe's council tax figure of 137.79 is the lowest of the 7 district councils in Nottinghamshire and one of the lowest in East Midlands. The appendix also shows the parish precepts and the special expense. The good news for West Bridgford residents is that their special expense charge has not been increased. As I said, this is a statutory requirement, and I'm pleased to propose the recommendation as detailed in Appendix A. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Edivine.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to second the recommendation and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you. Councillor McInnes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I say that we will be supporting the recommendations, having made our point.
Well done.
Can I also say, because I value the officers very much, and I've got written down here, but since usually I overgo over time, I shall thank them in this particular part of the agenda. And I would like to congratulate Peter Linfield and his team on their hard work and the quality of the budget report. It's detailed, comprehensive, and presented in the style which is understood.
Sorry, objection.
Thank you,
Mayor, this has nothing to do with the council tax. The budget's gone. You didn't say anything then. It's gone. So, Madam Mayor,
on a point,
it should not be
council tax. The officers.
Thank you, Councillor McInnes. I think the point has been made.
Part of working on the budget, and that's what we're thanking them for, because it's a good budget. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. No one else is indicating to speak. Councillor Moore, do you wish to respond?
No, Madam Mayor, I'm happy with the recommendation as detailed.
Thank you. All in favour, please show.
Unanimous.
That's unanimous, thank you. Item 10 is the independent review of councillors' allowances. Councillor Robinson again, please.
Thank you. As many of you are aware, this is actually required by law, and we had the last review in 2015. Now, allowances are like football. Everybody's got an opinion. So you'll never get consensus across everything in that. I think what's really important is to stress the independence of the review board here. If you page 138, you'll see the 3 panel members there. And I think there's no question at all of their independence in actually looking at this in terms of the recommendations we go forward. I also, Madam Mayor, welcome the background, the benchmarking on page 149, which I think really sets Rushcliffe very well against other authorities in terms of the overall allowances and where we sit. And that's obviously very important for taxpayers and public perception as well. Madam Mayor, I know a number of individuals wanted to present their case, and again, I think that's really important that they take that opportunity to present their challenges, and they're detailed on page 132 to 137. And as I said at the start, everyone's got an opinion, but I think it's a well-balanced report, and I think they've given very, very good responses to what's required there. So overall, Madam Mayor, I think this is an excellent report. I think they've listened well. They really have got the balance right, and I'm very happy to move these recommendations on page 127, section 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, and I too wish to second the motion and reserve the right to speak.
Councillor McInnes? Oh, Councillor Plant speaking for you.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. Obviously, not obviously, I retract that. The Labour Group supports the recommendations A and B in the report, and we agree very much that the statement made by the independent panel that there has been no substantial changes in members' responsibilities to justify any significant change in the Council's allowance scheme is definitely something that the thrust of the report is based on, really. And we fully support the panel's recommendations at the end of their report, which I won't repeat because I know you've all read them. The review was thorough. Councillors were invited to comment, and quite a few did, and the panel considered a number of other issues, including the proposed new scrutiny arrangements. And understandably, the panel found it difficult to predict the impact of those proposed changes at the time they met, and that might be something that might have to be looked again in future years. The comparative information in the report is really interesting. I suspect no one will be rushing to move and stand for election in Broxtowe anytime soon. It is difficult to make direct comparisons, but as the report states, Rushcliffe is certainly well within the acceptable bandwidth. I think we all agree that no one becomes a borough or a district councillor for the money, but we do have to ensure that our allowances are reasonable and fair and enable councillors to perform their duties properly, and importantly do not deter potential candidates from standing for election who are perhaps not as financially secure as many of us in this chamber. Madam Mayor, we think the Rushcliffe Members' Allowance Scheme does all of the things I mentioned above, and we are happy to support the remuneration panel's recommendations in full. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Sue Mallender.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We wish to support this recommendation and are pleased to see that the recommendation is that the allowances stay the same as they were previously. There hasn't been any significant change. It's very difficult to consider members' allowances because we want to encourage people who come from perhaps a different strata of society than perhaps many of us do. It would be good to have people who are on a low wage, for instance, who would be able to become councillors. It would be good to have people who could actually give up their jobs in order to become councillors. But unfortunately, that is not the case. It's not going to be anything that you're going to be able to live on. So people out there want two things. They want people to represent them who are not retired, and unfortunately a lot of us are, and I don't mean just here but across the country, but they also don't want to pay people enough to live on. So it is a very, very difficult concern, but we certainly think that we have come to the right conclusion with this and would agree with what the recommendation says. Thank you.
Councillor Jones, please.
I'll be brief. We will support this the recommendation. We think the current scheme is fair and balanced, and it's reasonable by comparison. I do share the comments that Councillor Mallender just made, but in the world we're living in, it doesn't seem possible to make that distinction. So we will be supporting this report and the recommendation. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I have no other speakers, so Councillor Robinson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to thank Councillor Plant there. She made a very good point about attracting new councillors, and I think it is a very important is that we do go to the borough and we do attract there, and an allowance scheme should actually really support that, getting the widest breadth we can of the population by all genders, sex, etc., and income levels as well. So I think that's a very good point that was actually made there, and thank you for your support. Okay.
We'll go to the vote. All in favour, please.
Unanimous.
That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Item 11 is the scrutiny review. And as Canon Haydock moves, can I thank him for his attendance this evening? Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. This review was actually requested by the Cabinet because we generally felt that the current scrutiny structure was outdated and certainly did not reflect the Council's activities and challenges as we go forward. And scrutiny is very, very important, not just within this Council, but also I think from a public perception as well, that decisions this Cabinet is making, that the Council's making, is absolutely right, and we should have those challenges done in the right way. It's important to stress that we brought in here the Centre for Public Scrutiny. Now this is independent assistance to help us. So just to make absolutely clear on this, these people weren't telling us what we should do, independent assistance. And I thank them because they did actually help. I know they interviewed quite a few people and they got the feedback. And that was absolutely key to have that independence from that. I think the briefing sessions they had with Chairman and Vice Chairman and many members was very useful. And again, I thank all members, everybody who participated in that, because your feedback was absolutely vital. And many of you have had a lot of experience, much more than I have, in terms of the scrutiny of the authority and how we should actually go forward. If I could just highlight that a couple of things. On page 159, they actually set out, I think, very well about best practice. Is it section 4.8 there, about training and sort of terms of reference? And I think this is really important in terms of the way in we adopt the best practice as we go forward. In terms of progressing this, we actually met with the CFPS, with the Cabinet and the management team, really just to see them, to look at these recommendations and really how we could actually implement them in the authority to make sure that we had the highest levels and the best practice in terms of going forward. Hence, I'm delighted now these have been reflected in this recommendations going in there. And as you'll see there on 4.10 really is the corporate overview group with the task and finish model. So I think it's best in the diagrammable feature there on 4.1, which actually sets this out and highlights some of the key tasks in terms of the training, in terms of reference and the increase of understanding of members as we actually go forward this. I think, Madam Mayor, the other important point of this is the transitional model, because I think changing scrutiny is quite difficult. This model has been in place now for a lot of years. We're used to the committee names, the way in which they're set up, etc. So in those discussions, we did feel that there needed to be this transitional time. As it says in the report, between 12 and 18 months. Personally, I hope it will be 12 months, because I think we should actually try and move this pretty quickly. So in summary, Madam Mayor, I think this is a very prudent and very, very sensible report, and I really think it will fulfil those objectives and improve scrutiny across this authority. So I've moved those recommendations on page 157 on section 2. Thank you.
Councillor Beardsall, second, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Just a few comments I'd like to make. I've been on scrutiny now for 4 years. 2 of those years I've been chairman of corporate governance, and those that have been on the scrutiny panels with me will be aware that from the get-go really I've wanted to look at some kind of improvement to the way we do scrutiny, so I'm really pleased that this motion is being put forward. The authority has been and is a very successful authority. But with the ambitious plans we've been talking about, there is a need to review our scrutiny. So this is an excellent opportunity to start that. I fully agree with the report, and in moving forward with the interim structure. One of the important things I'd like to note is that when we do go on to the interim structure, it's important, Madam Mayor, that we carry on with any of the actions that have been identified in any of the previous scrutiny groups. So that's quite important. It's essential that members are involved in new training, and again, this proposal caters for that. So, to finish, really, all I'd like to say is that I second the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Chewings, I think you're going to speak on behalf of Councillor McInnes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Labour Group welcomes a review of all scrutiny groups and recognises the hard work that officers, partners and members of scrutiny do. Scrutiny should support and benefit everyone involved and not be a chore. This independent review that Rushcliffe Borough Council has commissioned has taken into account chairs, vice chairs of scrutiny and members' opinions. Some aspects of scrutiny work very well and other areas not so, so a whole review of scrutiny and a dramatic change is welcome. This review is well timed, as in May this year we have a borough election, so any new councillors joining will be involved in the new start of the system. Within the report it states that training will be provided for all councillors after the May election, and good training will help all involved. The review suggests that more time-limited task and finish groups will be used for selected focused areas. I have sat on the leisure panel task and finish group and found this to be an effective way of working. We also welcome a review after 2 years of how the new system is working to ensure that good practices are adopted. The Labour Group agreed to disband the current scrutiny structure at the end of the municipal year and look forward to the changing way that the Council scrutinises its partners under the new scrutiny system, supported by training from an independent outside body, as recommended in point 4.18 on page 162 of this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jones.
Yeah, the small Liberal Democrat groups will support the report. Thank you, Madam Mayor. We think it's high time there was this change. We do express one concern that one of the reports mentions moving to daytime meetings, and for people who are working, I think that would be problematic. But my other general comment is that a good deal of patience and guidance will be needed in this transitional period, particularly given the large number of new members that are anticipated, and the struggle to change over from the system that we've already known. So as long as we get good guidance, then that would be great. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Richard Mallender, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, the Green Group is also happy to support this. It's a big change, big step away to a different model of scrutiny. I think it's one that will work well. I think the idea of a transitional model to get us through the first year, 18 months, will work well. It might even give us some ideas that we can possibly take forward if we sort of evolve the ideas of what we want to move to with this. Task and finish groups, things that most people are familiar with in the business world and in the public sector now as well. I think the new intake of councillors will understand that, and I hope that those of us who are still continuing or hope to be continuing will be able to get our heads around it as well. The idea of a separate governance group to be established to scrutinise standing items is a good one. It was something that I was a little bit concerned about. I was worried that we weren't going to pick that up. I'm pleased to see it here. The presentation that we had about it the other day, I thought there was.
Sorry. No, the water's in.
Oh, right, okay, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, this is what scrutiny does to people. It's terrible, isn't it? Okay. Yeah, I went to the presentation the other week. I think it was very well carried out, well explained. I was glad to see so much participation from councillors from all different parties about that. I went home, Sue asked me, what was it about? What then? What did you think of it? And I said, oh, it was really interesting. And her daughter Alice said, I bet it wasn't, and went to the other room. So, but nonetheless, it is a vital function of this council, and we are happy to support this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lawrence, please.
Is someone else there? Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wasn't intending to speak, but as I was sitting here, I thought, it's actually 16 years since we started using the principle of scrutiny. I'm thinking, it took me to start back at thinking about my very first of these full council meetings, 16 years ago, or nearly, it was the May one, of course, and there was a new item on the agenda forming a new committee called Overview and Scrutiny. And they were trying to staff it. And there was a volunteer to be chairman, but they couldn't find a vice chair. Believe it or not. And the councillor next to me, who had been deputed to look after me for the meeting, said, stick your hand up. So I did. And therefore, at my very first meeting, I found myself vice chairman of the Overview and Scrutiny Group. And of course, the reason why that had happened was it was completely new. Nobody knew what it did. Everybody was a bit suspicious of it. And there it was. So there I was.
Thank you. Councillor Lawrence, does this have relevance to...
Well, I was going to say, it put me in mind of the 12 years that I had significant influence on the way scrutiny developed. And I just wanted to say that had I continued to have that influence, I was getting more concerned that scrutiny had ossified. So I'm not protective. I think this is a good move, and I support it. And I would make 2 points that you might like to consider in the future. One is that the corporate overview group, when you get to the point where it's spreading out all the text of task and finish scripts, you might find there's actually more work around than can be handled by just one scrutiny group. So I just point this out to you, and in the future, I'm leaving, I'm glad I'm leaving, but I do support this change.
Thank you. Councillor Walker, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As Councillor Jones has mentioned, item 4.8 of the report suggests that that Rushcliffe considers timing scrutiny meetings within business hours. I'd like to place on record my belief that this should be resisted. Existing and prospective councillors have put themselves forward for election on the basis that council life can be combined with a 9-to-5 working life. And it's important for the diversity of the council that those with jobs such as school teachers can continue to take a full part.
Thank you. No other speakers. Councillor Robinson, do you wish to respond?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's a good point. As I say, this is a recommendation going forward. We're going to be working through this in the summer if it's voted on today, and I take that point certainly about the timing of meetings, and totally agree that we should be inclusive and accommodating as much as we can.
Thank you. We'll take the vote. All in favour, please show. Anyone against? No, sorry. Yeah, it is unanimous, thank you. So that is carried. Item 12, notices of motion. I read this one, don't I?
You don't
No.
have to read the full motion, I don't think.
Right.
Unless you wish to.
No, there's a notice of motion put by Councillor Sue Mallender. Are you recovered?
About that, I don't know what came in.
Okay, happens to me.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Fellow councillors, today you have the chance to play a small part in building a more secure future for humanity on this planet. The IPCC report outlines the impact of climate change, focusing on the impact and possible methods for preventing temperature rise above 1.5 C. It goes to great lengths to point out the differences between allowing temperatures to rise towards 2 degrees centigrade above pre-industrial times and keeping them nearer to 1.5. By 2100, global mean sea level rise will be around 10 centimetres lower for warming of 1.5 degrees compared with 2 degrees. This could mean up to 10 million fewer people exposed to the risk of rising seas. Similarly, when it comes to heat waves, in a world that's warmed by up to 1.5 degrees, about 14% of the population are exposed to a heat wave every 5 years. That increases to 37% of the population at 2 degrees. This climate emergency demands action from all, from individuals up to international organisations, and we have a duty to play our part. People are already dying from climate change. It has been estimated that in 2018 alone, globally, approximately 5,000 people have died and nearly 29 million have needed emergency assistance or humanitarian aid because of extreme weather. In the borough of Rushcliffe, the consequences of no action would include increased risk of flash flooding and the resulting damage to buildings, crops, farmland and infrastructure as a result of more extreme rainfall events. Increased costs associated with changes to crops and biodiversity. Crop failures associated with extreme heat, such as was experienced in Britain in 2018, and eventually food rationing, or worse, if there are too many crop failures worldwide. Similar motions acknowledging a climate emergency, as set out in the IPCC report, have already been agreed by other councils of varying sizes and political leadership. From Scarborough to Reigate and Banstead, from Stroud Town Council to Nottingham City Council and the London Assembly. This motion gives us the chance to join them, to work with partners who already have good schemes and to initiate more meaningful action in our borough. We will be able to improve the lives of our citizens while at the same time doing our best to protect their future. By updating our 2010 carbon management plan to a carbon neutral target by 2030 and leading our parish and town councils, local businesses and partners, Rushcliffe Council will play its part in this vital action for the people living today and future generations to come. I hope you will support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Richard Mallender, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to support the motion and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Robinson.
Yes, Councillor Robinson. There's no one else indicated.
Okay. No, thank you, Madam Mayor. The Conservative group will be supporting this motion.
Yes.
We're very proud in terms of taking the lead environmentally with Rushcliffe. I think there's a lot of things, yes, little things make a big difference. And as Councillor Mallanders have both, as you rightly say, this is not a Rushcliffe issue solely. This is not even a British issue. It's a world issue. And if we can play any part in that, then I'll be absolutely delighted we can support that, like many things we do in this authority. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I was just going to say much the same, and this council has a good history, of course, of environmental projects over the years, even in the last century. We were looking forward to this century we're in now. We had I think it was called the Agenda 21 project, and we're reaping the rewards of that now with all the work that this council has done in the past and continues to do. So, yes, a very good motion. I think this council can play a part as a leading community player in the borough. And some of the things we've already done in the last few months this year, the banning of the Chinese lanterns, the restricted use of the plastics, it's all originated from this council. So I think it goes to show that we do take the green agenda, the environment very, very seriously, and you only have to look at the results, such as things like recycling. One of the best, we're the best recyclers in the county, aren't we, in Rushcliffe, which plays a part towards the overall impact on greenhouse gases and the environment and all the rest of it. So we are committed to that sort of action, and I'm sure that one way or the other, this council will continue to be so. And I think the motion we've got there, although it refers obviously to nationwide and indeed world concerns, I think we all know, individually or as organisations, councils, all the rest of it, I think the message is getting through. We have a little part to play, whether it's a little part, big part, or whatever. So, yes, I think it's a very sensible and understandable motion, Madam Mayor, and I'm sure Rushcliffe will do its part. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'll be brief. We support this motion. Councillor Mallender has very ably set out the national and the world picture and those imperatives. I just want to say a couple of things locally, really. We're all proud of our strapline, Rushcliffe, great place, great lifestyle, great sport. And for many of our residents, great lifestyle means an increasingly clean and healthy lifestyle. And therefore, the part of the motion about taking action to deliver widespread carbon reductions across the borough is very important, and something that obviously, with everybody's support, can take forward in the next 10 years. And we only have to look back that if we were having this debate 10 years ago, the sorts of changes that have come. And one of those key changes has been, in reducing carbon emissions, has been the growth of electric vehicles. And there's a key role for local authorities to play in both promoting that as part of a culture, but also in making sure that any land, particularly off-street parking, but any land which the borough has can be used for charging points and so on. Now, I declare an interest. I bought an electric car 6 months ago.
Oh, well done.
So, yes, but my interest in that is no greater than the other people who are doing it. And we've already seen, 10 years ago, it was unimaginable we're going to have electric buses, but we've got electric buses, and they're playing a key part. If we look forward 10 years, I'm sure we may well see electric commercial vehicles becoming much more widespread, and clearly our waste trucks are a key part of that. Finally, the other thing in this is not just the carbon emissions, but also a reduction in noise. One of the key features I've learnt in having an electric vehicle is they've actually had to build in some noise so that when you're going slowly, people can hear you coming. But that cuts out once you get above 20 miles an hour. So you're then free to run people over. But the point being that one of the noisiest things, certainly along the street where I live, is the weekly waste collection vehicles. And if that can be reduced and you can reduce the carbon emissions, so be it. We support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jones, please.
Yeah, we also support the motion. Congratulate Councillor Mallender on a very moving and pointed speech. The council does need to update its carbon management plan because it's sometime, I think it expires shortly. It will be a great challenge, and I think huge steps need to be taken. I do think there is also a point to be made to central government, because my understanding is that they took a step back from imposing higher building control standards. When I last heard, we were still on level 5 and they hesitated on 6. And so the requirements on new builds that we're having are not as environmentally friendly and nowhere near carbon neutral. And we ought to be pressing for that big time. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Sue Mallender, do you wish to respond any further? Is it you? Right. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. just like to say thank you very much for everyone's support on this. I hope we can pass this now, and we have obviously got a lot of work to do in reducing carbon, in making sure that we bequeath a much better world to generations yet to come. I would like to just say briefly thank you to the members of the Nottingham branch of Extinction Rebellion who are here tonight and who work with us on this motion. It's a global movement, and Green Party and indeed Global Greens, which is our kind of global party, also supports their aims as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We will go to the vote on the motion. All those in favour?
It's unanimous, Madam Mayor.
That is unanimous. Motion. Thank you. Item 13. Questions under Standing Order number 11, brackets 2. Councillor Jones.
Given the Conservative government's undertaking to take 20,000 Syrian refugee adults and children from the camps by the end of 2019, and Rushcliffe Council pledged to take only 41, based proportionately on population despite being a relatively wealthy area, what numbers will the council take by the end of this year, i.e. by the end of the promise?
Councillor Robinson.
Yeah, we've taken 27 individuals. Any future numbers in 2019 will depend very much on families being identified by the UN Commission for Refugees.
Councillor Jones, do you have a supplementary question?
Yeah, bearing in mind that, for instance, the flight next week will take 3 to the city, 2 to Broxtowe and 2 to Newark, who've taken, I think, far more than us. I would ask the leader whether you will commit to meeting at least the target by the end of this year.
As I said, we will work with the refugees to see that they're appropriate to come here. We'll also work with our partners, Metropolitan, to make sure there's suitable premises working towards that target.
Councillor Jones, the second one this evening, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What action will the Cabinet Member for Environmental Health take to dissuade food outlets or persuade food outlets in Rushcliffe, large and small, to seriously reduce their use of single-use plastic?
Councillor Mason.
The Council has no statutory powers to formally require food businesses to reduce single-use plastics. However, building upon our own initiative, we look forward to responding to the Government's consultation scheduled for later this year.
Councillor Jones, do you have a supplementary? No. Thank you. We go to the next question, question 3. Councillor Jones.
Given the national increase in hate crime, what action will the council take on its own or with partners to monitor and report to councillors on the experience of religious and other minority groups in our community?
Councillor Mason.
In contrast to the national picture, the latest data for January 2019 shows a 20.3% reduction in reported hate crimes in Rushcliffe.
Do you have a supplementary?
Yeah, I'd welcome an answer to the question, which is, will there be some regular reporting to councillors on the level of hate crime, given it's such a key topic, particularly for Jewish and Muslim minorities?
Is that a question? Thank you.
In addition, the Council will continue to refer any reported hate crimes to the police and will work to support investigations as part of our strong community safety partnership working.
Thank you. Question number 4, Councillor Sue Mullender.
Given that some councils have assigned their emergency planning officers to deal with the possible impacts on residents and businesses arising from uncertainty over when, if or how the United Kingdom leaves the European Union, what plans does the Rushcliffe Borough have in place to manage this?
Councillor Edivine.
The Chief Executive and the Executive Management team have been working closely with the Nottinghamshire Local Resilience Forum, the County Council and other district councils, as well as central government departments, to ensure that we can respond to any impacts of Brexit locally.
Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Mallender?
Is there a role for individual councillors as community leaders in this?
Councillor Edivine.
I think is there a role? It's up to individual councillors, I would say, and we do have various forums like the Town and Parish Council where people can get involved. We, as a council, we are also holding some events ourselves.
Question number 5, Councillor Sue Mallender.
In order to further Rushcliffe Borough Council's commitment to the reduction of single-use plastics, and in particular to help reduce the demand for plastic water bottles, will the Borough Council investigate the provision of public water fountains and consider using planning advice to introduce them in major developments?
Councillor Upton, please.
Instead of water fountains, this council already has a commitment to promote the Refill Rushcliffe water scheme, which is progressing well and also helps to support increased footfall into local businesses that provide this facility.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Sue Mallender?
We fully support the refill scheme. However, if those shops are closed or those businesses are not open at the time you can't, it's a Sunday night and you wish to fill your water bottle, a public water fountain would be much better facility. And I hope that this will be a consideration, particularly in new planning developments and planning advice.
Yeah. We'll move to the next question. That was not really a question. Thank you. Item number 6 is Richard Mallender.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Nottingham City Council have indicated that they are withdrawing funding from the local link L22, L23 bus service. They have actually now formally put forward the 3-month notice on that. This provides a vital service to the residents of West Bridgford as the sole direct public transport link from Ganston, Lady Bay and Central West Bridgford, and Ruddington indeed, to the GP surgeries on Wilford Lane. Will the Borough Council seek discussion with the City and County Councils and local bus companies to secure funding in order to retain this service?
Councillor Moore, please.
The City Council have funded the L22 and L23 with support from Nottinghamshire County Council in its current format since the opening of Wilford Lane Medical Centre. Now hot off the press. A meeting took place this afternoon with a new provider, and Nottinghamshire County Council officers are seeing if they would operate the route. But unfortunately, Councillor Cotty, who is the chairman of that committee, has not yet been updated on how that meeting has gone. Councillor Cotty has confirmed to me that more information will be released in the near future, as Nottinghamshire County Council is committed to keep these services for the residents of West Bridgford.
Councillor Richard Mallender, do you have a supplementary?
Well, firstly, thank you. That sounds good news, even if he doesn't know quite what's happening. Will councillors look to extend Section 106 provision to support local bus services, such as the one that was put in place for the GP surgery there, which extended, I believe, for just 3 years, as the sums that have been agreed in the past have been very small beer, as it's been put to me, compared to the actual operating costs?
Councillor Moore.
I think Councillor Mallender, you ought to come out in the rural area where I live, where I've got villages with only 5 buses a day that's running. One of my major complaints when I go to any parish council meeting is local bus transport. I use the buses. I go to on a lot of places where I say to people, if you don't use it, you lose it. 106 agreements are included, money is included within 106 agreements, and I know Cotgrave, the large estate at Cotgrave, over £600,000 was put to it. But that only has a finite time before it runs out and somebody's got to pay. Yes, 106 is being used, but I have a great sympathy with you about buses. But so many people say, we want more buses, and they never go on them. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 7. Councillor Richard Mullender. Again, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Given Rushcliffe Council's commitment to sustainability with initiatives such as the reduction of single-use plastics and high levels of recycling, will the borough be creating a Rushcliffe Good Food Partnership in order to create an economically vibrant, sustainable food culture enjoyed by citizens and visitors alike?
Councillor Mason, please.
Thank you. The council already delivers a well-supported Taste of Rushcliffe event each year, which attracts existing and new food businesses to participate. This is further supported by the Rushcliffe Business Partnership, which includes many local food businesses.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary question? Right. Okay. That's the end of the questions. Item 14. It is recommended that the public be excluded from the meeting for consideration of the following item of business pursuant to Section 100A, brackets 4 of the Local Government Act 1972 on the grounds that exempt information may be disclosed as defined in paragraph 1 of Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Act as amended.
Have you got support for that?
Yes. Is there a support for that, please, councillors? Show of hands. Thank you.